So what if I told you there's a way to build serious muscle and strength without having to lift incredibly heavy weights? Well, today we're jumping into a pretty revolutionary technique that's really shaking things up in both rehab and high-performance training. It's called blood flow restriction, or BFR for short, and it's a science-backed method that gets you amazing results with surprisingly light loads.
All right, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll tackle the whole paradox of low-load training. Then we'll get right into the science of how BFR actually works, and I'll walk you through a practical guide of how it's done in a clinic. After that, we'll look at the amazing whole-body benefits, cover the super important safety stuff, and then wrap up with what this could all mean for the future of fitness.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the big problem that BFR training was really made to solve. It's for all those people who want or need to get stronger, but just can't handle the wear and tear of lifting heavy.
I mean, this is such a critical question, right? Think about athletes recovering from an injury, or older folks trying to stay strong and fight off muscle loss, or really anyone in a clinical setting where going heavy just isn't in the cards. For the longest time, the answer was basically, well, you can't, not really. But BFR completely changes that conversation.
Now this is where things get really interesting. You can see the huge difference. The old school way says you've got to lift heavy, like 70 to 85% of your absolute max to grow. But that puts a ton of stress on your joints. BFR just flips that script. You get similar gains in muscle size using weights that are only 15 to 30% of your max. It's like a scientific shortcut that saves your joints.
So let's be super clear about what BFR actually is. We're not talking about cutting off circulation completely. No way. It's a really precise technique. You use a cuff, kind of like a regular blood pressure cuff, and place it high up on your arm or leg. You inflate it just enough so that fresh, oxygenated blood can still flow in through your arteries, but you partially block the veins, so the blood has a hard time getting out. This creates a really unique environment inside that working muscle.
So how in the world does trapping blood in a muscle make it get bigger and stronger, especially when you're just using tiny weights? Let's dig into the science here, and just as important, the actual step-by-step setup that makes it all work.
This is probably the best analogy for it. Because the blood can't leave, all those byproducts from exercise, think lactic acid, get stuck in there. The muscle just fills up. It basically creates this local crisis, a metabolic traffic jam that screams at your body to send growth signals. This shows the chain reaction perfectly, so let's walk through how a pro would actually do this. First, the cuff goes high on the limb. Then they figure out your personal limb occlusion pressure. They'll use a stethoscope over an artery, the brachial artery in your arm or the posterior tibial artery by your ankle, and pump up the cuff until they can't hear your pulse anymore. For the actual workout, the pressure is set to a percentage of that number, usually around 50% for your arms and 80% for your legs. That's step 2, blocking the veins without cutting off the arteries. Then you start exercising, typically with a set of 30 reps, then 3 more sets of 15, with only 30 seconds of rest in between. That's what causes step 3, that massive buildup of metabolites. And that, in turn, kicks off step 4. Your muscle gets absolutely flooded with powerful growth signals.
So let's unpack what's happening under the hood. That metabolic crisis forces your body to recruit its most powerful muscle fibers, the fast-twitch ones you usually only use for heavy lifting. Plus, all that blood pooling in the muscle makes the cells swell up, which the body sees as a threat and responds by signaling for growth. And to top it all off, you get a huge surge in anabolic hormones like growth hormone. It's basically the perfect recipe for building muscle, but without the heavy weights.
But here's what's truly mind-blowing. The effects of BFR aren't just stuck in the muscle that's under the cuff. This technique actually triggers responses that benefit your entire body, from your bones all the way to your heart.
Okay, first, just to hammer it home, the results for your muscles are real. Study after study shows BFR with light weights can build muscle just as well as traditional heavy lifting. The strength gains are huge, and what's wild is how fast it works. Some studies see real, measurable gains in just 1 to 3 weeks. And this isn't just for lifting, it works for things like walking or cycling too.
And get this, the benefits for your bones are pretty amazing too. BFR training actually increases the markers in your blood that signal new bone formation. It puts a positive kind of stress on your skeleton that can encourage it to get denser and stronger, but without all the jarring impact that can be risky for someone with, say, osteoporosis.
And it doesn't stop there. The positive effects reach your heart and even your nervous system. BFR can improve your aerobic capacity, your VO2 max. That unique stress also encourages angiogenesis, which is just a fancy word for building new blood vessels, basically creating new supply lines for your muscles. It even improves the connection between your brain and your muscles, which makes you more powerful and coordinated.
Okay, whenever you hear about a training method that sounds this good, you have to ask about safety. And you absolutely should. Intentionally playing with blood flow is serious stuff, and it has to be done the right way.
So let's be crystal clear here. While all the research shows BFR is pretty safe when it's done correctly by someone who's trained, it is definitely not for everybody. The absolute most important first step is screening for contraindications. Those are the reasons someone should not do it.
This list is critical, so please pay close attention. If you have any history of blood clots, like a DVT, or severe high blood pressure, vascular disease, an active infection or cancer, or if you're pregnant, BFR is not for you. Other conditions like diabetes or sickle cell trait are also big red flags. You absolutely have to be cleared by a medical professional before you even think about trying this. Safety has to be number one, period.
So when you put it all together, the incredible results, the low stress on the body, the wide range of benefits, it becomes pretty clear that BFR is a huge shift in how we think about getting and staying strong.
This quote from the research just nails it. The real magic of BFR is that it separates muscle growth from heavy, joint-punishing loads. It opens up the world of effective strength training to so many people who were previously left on the sidelines.
If you take just one thing away from our whole chat today, let it be this. Blood flow restriction training gives you a way to get big gains in muscle and strength, but with very little mechanical stress on your body. It is a true game changer.
And that really leaves us with this one last exciting question. By making real strength training possible for almost anyone, no matter how old they are or how much weight they can lift, could BFR be the key to unlocking a future where we all stay strong, mobile, and resilient for our entire lives? It's a pretty amazing thing to think about.